Hello there, my name is Wokianaru, and this is another special tier list. This one is, I was sitting down thinking about it for the longest time, and it took me a while to think of it because there's just so much to it, and that is creepypastas. So imagine back, early 2000s to 2010s, where we had this big, creepypasta boom. And it was, creepypasta was, to begin with, just a site, but then very much became one of those terms. I'll say it like that. It became one of those terms. One of those, like, if you say you want to search something, you're not searching it, you're going to go Google it. You got a runny nose, go get me a Kleenex. Those sorts of things where the brand becomes the known word for that. But there's still like a million of them. There's so much. There's still so much of them. I mean, that became like a huge part of the gaming industry. Like that took over like half of the horror gaming industry after a while. And so I decided to gather some of basically the most popular ones. And it's only a few because I'm like, I can't gather all of them. And then I've also gathered a couple of them that are personal favorites of mine. But if you have, I very much want this to be in the comments below. If you have a creepypasta that I didn't mention, name it, and we'll wait a little while, and I'll go back through, and if I don't know about it, I'll read it or listen to it, because some of these are audio dramas and stuff like that. But name it down in the comments below, and I will go back through and we'll tier list those, just because, like I said, there are so many of them. There are absolutely so many of them that it's one of those, if we were to do this, you could do this forever. You could just do this forever. I'm going to start off with some of the most popular ones. And that, like I said, I'm going to throw in some that are some of my personal favorites that I'll have to, kind of try not to be biased on. But we're going to start off with one of the OGs. Everyone knows him. There's going to be a couple of, here's the prompts. So think of it like this. You're thinking of, you're taken back to that earlier time when you're like a preteen, teenager, and you know what, you're online and you're seeing these things, or like you have an older sibling who has told you these things, told you these stories, because a couple of these things do pop up in things like video games and whatnot. But there's a couple of prompts for this one. It's very, very specific. So I'm trying to keep this in the mindset of younger me, preteen, early teenager, and even sometimes younger for some of them. So potential to keep me awake. So that whole thing of you just watched a scary movie right before bed and you can't sleep because you're afraid something's going to happen. Believability and it being a thing, it being actually real. Maybe it's not just a written story or, a spread rumor. No, maybe it's actually a thing. So some of these things being like, as we have our friend here, it could be a creature, or, a story of an event that happened that maybe it did actually happen. Did this thing actually possibly happen? And then the last one is, of course, the scariest to me at the time, keeping that like mindset of me, young me. So the first one is Slender Man. So Slender Man was, came about and is probably one of, if not the most famous of the creepypastas to ever exist. There's a whole bunch of different games and whatnot that got made out of him. One or two movies, I want to say, even, that got made. And the truth is, Slender Man was just a story that also got a... there's the couple of things of, I don't know what to say is the true origin of Slender Man. There's the theory of it being something of German folklore, Der Ritter, and then the Photoshop competition thing on Marble Hornets that, exploded and became such a huge thing. So, there's that element. If you can have a thing, a lot of these things are actually like that. You don't know the origin. Where the hell did this thing come from? It popped up on the internet one day and you read it and you've seen so many different iterations of it because you can't really keep the story straight of it. But I'm sorry, I'm freezing cold. But I think Slender Man, out of all of those, is one of the most popular. But for some reason, to me, in that age, Slender Man wasn't super creepy. I mean, I did play remakes of things like Slender Man, The 8 Pages. I have some Slender Man games in my library on YouTube. You probably look them up. I don't remember what they are. But I've played them, and yeah, the games can be scary and whatnot. But it was never one of those things of, hey, my older sibling told me this story to be a jerk and to make me scared. Or I read it online and was then fearing for my freaking life that Slender Man was going to show up. The thing is, I just have to say how popular and whatnot Slender Man became. I could believe, it is semi-believable in a paranormal sense, but it's also, he's not as scary as he once was. But to me, he was also never fully super scary, partially because I think he also kind of got romanticized. It was one of those things where you'd see fan art of him, that people would do, and other things. If he had just remained such a creepy story, then maybe he would be scarier. But all things considered, I would say he is a pretty good, solid A-tier creepypasta. And like I said, he is one of the ones that started that boom. And I mean, I did try and go with a lot of the ones I have on here are very much ones that started the creepypasta boom on YouTube and just the internet in general. So let's go to another one of the big ones, Jeff the Killer. I will always say that yes, this picture creeped me out, and it still creeps me out to this day because it's just one of those, it has an aura to it. It has that, I want to shrink it down just because it's freaking me out right now just looking at it. So I'm looking at the webcam instead. The same thing kind of happened with Jeff the Killer, though. It was with Slender Man, the whole, fan art and other things got made of it. I don't remember the full story I bet like if I were to go on, I'm going to read an abridged version. I'll try and do that. Exactly. Yeah, Jeff the Killer. So this creepypasta is the most well-written story that is on this list. There are plot holes and unrealistic behaviors by pretty much everyone. So it's one that people can't agree on. This isn't even mentioned the fandom that has sexualized the character. Like I said, lots of that happened. The story really begins when Jeff is attacked by a group of bullies that throw bleach on him, burn him, and cut him. He is mutilated by these boys, and due to this torture, he loses his mind. He ends up cutting his mouth into an unsettling smile, then removing his eyelids so he would never have to close them again to see the horrors that he imagines. But it's, like I said, so the one I posted right there is probably one of the most popular pictures of Jeff the Killer. And it's really, you can tell that it's very much just a Photoshop job. However, it's unsettling. It's very unsettling. He'll always be very unsettling, in my opinion, just looking at him. So I think he deserves a good A tier. I don't know if I want to say there's been movies and whatnot that are semi-inspired by Jeff the Killer. But there is so much that, you know. Okay, so apparently there is a Jeff the Killer. Oh, there's a couple of different ones. So there's actually one. They're probably more just fan movies. They're not ones you'd go and see in theaters. But it's definitely one that you look at and you're like, okay, this is creepy, but it's also, there's just so much to it that kind of levels it out. Do I want to go with, which one do I want to go with next? You know, I'm going to throw in some, so I'm not going to, I'll twist it up here some. I have to do this just because along the time, along with the creepypastas came SCP. And, you know, SCP being that full list, like that website, that full website, absolutely full of thousands of stories on creepy things, on amusing things, on confusing things. SCP in itself, they made, you know, there's loads of video games of SCP. I've played loads of video games on SCP. It's not just one single entity. You can't really narrow SCP down to one single entity. It never fully unsettled me, but there is this one thing of, there's an air to SCP that you kind of are like, this is believable in the sense of like a Men in Black type thing, you know, one of those, there's the possibility, you know, there's things that the government is just now revealing to us and whatnot. So why is there not the possibility of some secret shadow organization that like captures anomalies and keeps them away from the world, not just for their protection, but also to study them and whatnot. So though it may not be directly SCP, it could be a lot of other things. SCP though never really had the ability to like keep me awake as a kid, unless I was just, you know, me scrolling, reading through them. But it was never one of those like keep me awake as a kid because I'm sitting there thinking about this, like this thing is gonna come get me. It was never one of those urban legends where like you did the Bloody Mary or whatever for say. You did that when you were a kid and you stay awake because you were afraid, you know, that you were gonna get attacked. But I mean, there are things within the list that you read and you're like, this thing could be real. I mean, there's a thing like that. I mean, we did, when I did the cryptids list, the 2 cryptids lists, I did very much go, okay, some of these are more paranormal entities and whatnot that, yes, could be real. That's where they'd kind of fit in. They'd fit in here. They'd fit in with Slender Man and whatnot. They'd fit in that sort of area. But being that creepypasta is like SCP is an entity of itself, but it has such a variety. Do I want to do... I did say one of the factors is keeping me awake at night as a kid. The biggest thing that gets me for... I'm trying to think of one that really would get me, you know? Maybe it's just because I'm a soulless person. Who knows? I've got to throw in a couple of these here. I've got a couple of video game ones that, came out. We're going to start with, some of you may recognize this. You may recognize the picture. But this is Lavender Town from Pokemon. And it was called the Lavender Town Syndrome. And if you remember Lavender Town had, creepy music to it. It had weird music that was just set apart from all the other, video game, all the other game music within Pokemon. Then you'd go and, Lavender Town's big thing being, what's the name of the tower? I think it's just Pokemon Tower. I'm going to look it up real quick. I think it's just Pokemon Tower. Yeah, Pokemon Tower. So yeah, it's just Pokemon Tower, the graveyard of Pokemon. That just being one of those things that you don't think of and you don't want to think of, and it being pretty creepy to begin with. But Lavender Town Syndrome was a very specific thing. It was, I'm trying to remember. So it was, you'd hear the music and it would give you headaches, and I think there was even reports of kids having seizures and whatnot when hearing it, and it was just very specifically that possible. Hearing this thing, I would say, hearing that thing and going, is this game cursed, or are these games cursed, or is just this section of the game cursed for some reason? Like they were designing the game and they couldn't exactly, they didn't make it correct. It was very specifically, when it came to Lavender Town Syndrome, it was the versions of red and blue and I think yellow. I have to do my research. So yeah, it would cause paranoia and all these other different things. Oh yeah, and there was the supposed that came from it as well. Red and green. Okay, it was red and green. So it was the first games that supposedly, a bunch of kids, the Lavender Town music, developed mental illnesses, committed, all that. It was just, it's a believable thing in the sense of there have been things, yes, that before that have done these, created paranoia, and it's mass hysteria. And I bet you that I didn't ever have red and green, but I do remember originally playing Pokemon and getting to whichever first Pokemon games we had, but getting to Lavender Town and hearing the music and being like, this is wrong. Having that feeling of like, this isn't like the rest of the game. It did continue that creepy factor, that confusing creepy factor, throughout the generations in which Lavender Town existed. And you're just kind of like, this doesn't feel right. Especially playing it as a kid, you'd go into Lavender Town and be like, that's not right. That's not the happy, jolly game that I was just playing. What just happened? And then you'd leave to Lavender Town and be like, what? Like it never happened. I have to give it to this one because there are some like this. Like I said, I think I have one other video game example, but there are loads of video game examples that, you know, this one did freak me out a little bit as a kid, just because of, I think it was maybe I didn't know just because it freaked me out and it confused me, but it never really scared me necessarily, because I think I don't know if I didn't hear the whole thing, but it was creepy. Let's throw in Okay, I've got 12 here. But you know, there's plenty of other ones. I'm gonna throw in one that a lot of people know. And I don't know why this is the most common picture used for it. You probably knew exactly, like I could continue to talk about this without anyone ever, like without having to say what it is. And people would probably be like, yeah, I know what this guy's talking about. I know exactly what he's talking about. But those who remember the Russian sleep experiment, there was a huge, it was a huge one, absolutely huge. And it was, I do have to say, one of my favorite ones. I'm not going to go through the whole story because everyone knows it, or there's still plenty of versions out there that you can listen to that are like, this is creepy. Like I will say there are a couple of there were channels that I don't think I was necessarily subscribed to them or anything, but I did listen to them a lot. And I do have to say, I do think there are some. Let me see if I can find if that video still exists. It probably does. Oh, there's someone made that's kind of cool. Someone made some form of video about it, like a fan horror film. Oh yeah. I have to watch that. That sounds pretty cool. Oh yeah, and there's some people that were, that made videos on it that like actually tried to pass it off as a real thing. Like, yes, this did happen. This, this experiment did happen, and these, what was it, like 9 guys did, those that lived did go fully insane and, died. And it was a creepy one. I will have to say it was very much a creepy one. I could believe it because it kind of goes with that whole what are they hiding from us thing. When you hit a certain age, and when you start watching videos like this, then you start having those thoughts of what is the government hiding from us? Or what are, other people, higher up people hiding from us? But this was definitely one of them that you'd watch and you'd be like, I could believe that this is real. There are documented things that happened in things like insane asylums and whatnot, where there was, instances of human experimentation that led to death and those sorts of things. But this one, it was a little bit more far-fetched because it was one of those, how is it possible? And, human can literally only go so long without sleep before dying. But it is definitely one of those creepier ones. It is up there on the creepy list. And like I said, I bet you if I didn't say it, most of you could have probably told me what that was, and especially what that picture was from, because it is the picture always used for that. Let's go to, and that is, I will have to say, that is one of my more favorite ones, being the Russian sleep experiment. Let's hop back onto the bandwagon of popular, very, very popular, famous ones. Okay, so this is another, Jesus Christ, man, you didn't need to be. That's supposed to be, the picture of the rake. Loads of video games have come out about the rake, and I think it was another one of those things that in that cryptids video is like, yes, this could be a thing. It could be a creature that exists in some part of the world, and it being one of those, it never really kept me awake. I definitely would say that it didn't have that capability, especially because it would be one of those, you'd see fake footage or maybe real footage of people having encounters and whatnot that were definitely creepy, but it's like, just stay inside, man. I'll keep it short for the rake, because everyone knows that I could have, gone on more about that one, because it was also one that's changed a whole lot. It's been through a whole lot of different changes and things, but you just don't know. Do I want to do? Let's do one more before I hop back into the other weird ones. Another popular one, Smile Dog. So if you remember, Smile Dog was another one of those very popular and famous ones that popped up in the original thing. And this was the whole thing of it was a weird post, picture that was posted online, and then after a while it was given a weird, creepy story. And if I remember right, this was also definitely, okay, yeah. The story certainly plays with the idea of chain emails, something that we've all experienced at one point or another, except this time there's a curse attached, an actual curse attached that will ruin the lives of people. So yeah, this is one of those. Has a story to it, is pretty creepy, but it's just one of those more of the picture is weird. But the more I look at it, because I'm trying to look at, you sometimes have the issue of looking at things within the mind of, this is how I would have looked at it, back then. This is how I would have seen this thing back then as a kid. I might have been jump scared by this once or twice, but now I can, look at it and you see so many different things online, or if I took the time, I could figure out how to do this in Photoshop. I could figure out how to make this. A picture similar to this. But yeah, it has a good story. but it's certainly not the creepiest. It's also not one that I worried about a whole lot as a kid. That's another thing that, like I said, it was the worriness because, you know, creepypastas popped up. They've slowly, they've kind of died down over the years, but they're still, you know, pretty prevalent. Let's hop back into, throw one out. Herobrine. So I'll be completely honest, I didn't really know about Herobrine until I was a little bit older. It was not, I mean, I played Minecraft when it came out. Literally when it came out, when it was first released. I think the first time I played Minecraft, I'll have to say it, and people will probably make fun of me for it, but I did originally play it on the Xbox, because we didn't have a, you know, the PC we had wasn't really meant for video games, but then the games you'd play on it were like Roller Coaster Tycoon and whatnot. So if you wanted to have that sort of experience, you play it on the Xbox. So I don't even fully remember the story of Herobrine. Urban legend and creepypasta from the video game Minecraft, originating from an anonymous post on the image board website 4chan, how a lot of these things get their start, and is, you know, a depiction of Steve's solid white eyes. There's a couple of different things saying that was, you know, originally in the game, and he was like a corrupt state, like bit of the game, and that he would pop up and act like a person. He'd pop up and you know, he would act as another character playing in the game. Oh, I've never heard about that one. Supposedly there was also the 4chan post claimed some people thought it was Herobrine's, or not, Notch's brother, and that was the alias he went under, was Herobrine. But yeah, this was, and there was things of like summoning Herobrine and all those sorts of I bet if you go onto, you go onto YouTube and you look up Herobrine, you're gonna find like a million videos on like how to summon Herobrine and whatnot, and all those. After 13 years, the true story of Herobrine was just discovered. But yeah, it was one of those things of he like popped up and would just keep popping up in your game. So he was just kind of like a creepy thing that existed and was just like not supposed to be there. It doesn't make too much sense, but I mean, he is. Yeah, I'll just squish him there. Squish my man there. He's pretty creepy, but he's not as creepy as like the other ones, because it's just like, okay, he's in a video game. He just kind of exists. If I remember right, there was like the possibility of like corruption to game files, and that was about it. What sets like the Lavender Town syndrome apart from that is the fact that this one was very much like this could it physically affected people, you know. There was that story of it physically affecting people. Okay, hop back into another famous one, Eyeless Jack. This is another one that I do actually have to say, even today, Eyeless Jack gives me some pretty freaky vibes, you know. Looking at it, the aura that comes off of this picture is very much it is very much just weird. You look at it and you're you're like, ooh, the picture alone, you're like, what is going on here? Freaks me out. What was it? Yeah, it was one of those you wake up and you see in the middle of the night, eyeless Jack here, like standing over you sleeping. He's kind of a sleep paralysis demon type thing. Really? It's another one that originated on 4chan. So I'm just learning that 4chan is a horrendous site. I never went on 4chan. And it was the thing of, oh. So actually some of these stories came down, Eyeless Jack and Jeff the Killer, the original stories being some of them. But yeah, this was like the story of two brothers. It was definitely one of the ones that I didn't really read, but I saw occasionally like the picture, and the picture did give me the creeps. And it is definitely one of those things that I would think about, you know. So I guess since I never really read it, it didn't catch my attention as much as, like, I did read the story of Jeff the Killer. I did read, you know, some of the different stories they had for Slenderman and whatnot, and I read plenty of SCPs. Though this one just, it does give that creepy vibe. Like, the longer you stare at it, the more you're just like, don't like that. Like, fight or flight kicks in, almost. Let me throw in, let me see, what of it? 1, 2, 3, I think three more. 3 more left. I'm gonna throw in a couple that are ones that I know I've listened to on a multitude of occasions. So the first one is Room Zero. So there are so many different creepypastas and whatnot that were originated around, you know, that basically started the boom of things like Five Nights at Freddy's and those like the creepy horror animatronics, those sorts of things. But Room Zero set apart a little bit differently, because Room Zero was a listening to it, it was just very much one of, did the person that, like, I listened to, did they just go away? I don't remember what the person that I listened to, their name was. I think they might have gone away. Let me try and see if I can, because I have another one in here that's also oh, maybe he just rebranded. Yeah, he just rebranded. But, you know, Room Zero being one of those, it was a group of people that were, or like a big group of people, when there was the, you know, bomb threats and whatnot during the Cold War, that were at, I don't remember if it was Disney World or Disneyland. One of them, but, you know, they were evacuated into this big bunker-esque room, and just left there to die. And it was one of those things of, could this have happened? Maybe. It is a creepy one. I do love it, and it does like make me think. That's why I did say I picked out some of my favorite ones, as well as the other ones. Along with Room Zero was Abandoned by Disney. Abandoned by Disney being the story of a man finding, I think it's, I'm making sure I have the names like kept together, like in the correct order. Yes. So yeah, Abandoned by Disney being a story about an abandoned treasure island resort that a man goes to, and like everything goes downhill, and there's this like strange living Mickey costume. That one is creepy. I do have to say, for there is this slight. It does make the thing that makes I feel like Room Zero just slightly creepier is they're on kind of different levels, because one is it's one of those, it's a urban exploration video gone wrong. And there's plenty of those. And there's some of them are true. Some of them very much can be one of those. It's an urban exploration of an abandoned building, but we accidentally ran into someone who was squatting there, and they were violent. Those sorts of things, that does happen to some people. Or, the urban exploration, but like it's a haunted video, or it's a like haunted building. But the Room Zero sort of thing was supposed to kind of fit along with like Fallout sort of lore. It was one of those, these people got left there by, whoever, and a lot of people went crazy. They started killing each other. There's, those sorts of stories. Who's texting me? But it definitely is one of those. It does seem, I feel like the thing that makes it a little bit less creepy is the fact that it's like, okay, it's some living Mickey costume, because it does, like the Mickey costume, if I remember, like eats the guy. Like doesn't like eat the guy, but it like wraps around him and like suffocates him, like Five Nights at Freddy's style. It kills him like that, basically. The last one I have on my list for today is one that I'll say I don't remember too much about. Yes, okay, you know what? I do remember. Does there really? Okay, yeah, so last but not least is, I'm gonna, because I have to make sure that I bleep this out. Squidward. So there's a lot of these stories that are very basic, that are very much like some guy was watching a video and this happened. I mean, that's literally what this one was supposed to be, was an intern was watching an unaired episode of SpongeBob, and a scene comes on where, I mean, there were some scenes in SpongeBob, older SpongeBob, that you're like, should y'all have put that in there? because they do the things of like the hyperrealism and whatnot, and it kind of freaks you out. And that's what this was like him having hyperrealistic eyes, but then it ultimately ends in his taking his own life, and it just goes downhill from there and all these other things. But it's one of those things of, there are loads of stories like this. There are loads of stories of like the animators having done things like this, or like I could tell you that there's so many different ones, from things like just Adventure Time alone, or movie set things. There's the different stories from like the Wizard of Oz stories of there supposedly being one of the Munchkins being dead in one of the backgrounds of one of the scenes. I feel like those all fit into a realm of their own, which is kind of funny, but they are cool. They're entertaining little stories, but they're definitely not ones that keep me awake. But just thinking about it, like, the thing is, starting with Squidward with hyper-realistic eyes, SpongeBob did that crap already. SpongeBob did that stuff, like, way more than they should have. I'm gonna find one of the, like clips, because SpongeBob would do that. They would just have, you'd be watching an episode, and then it would zoom in, and then you're freaking... You're left with crap like that. You're left with those sorts of things. SpongeBob did that plenty of times. But there were plenty of other stories or shows that did things like that. Let me look at it. I know not many people did it, but it would happen on occasion in things like Flapjack. I don't know how many people watched Misadventures of Flapjack, but that would happen on that. you get those screens that you're just like, what is that? This actually happened. This happened. Or it was like a cute cat, and then freaking zoomed in on it, and you're just like, what? There were those sort of nightmare fuel things. You're just like, why are these happening? I am a child. Should I be seeing this? There were loads of things like that. But like I said, so this is literally just a start to the list. I want you guys to send in the comments, put in ideas or other things that you have, and I'll collect them. And if I haven't read them or seen them or things like that, I'll take a look at them, and I'll make, a list, and then I'll come back to this video. We'll come back to this video and we'll make a part 2 to it, bringing in some of your guys' more creepy. So this is a very open thing. This is like a very open call for these sorts of things. But remember, it falls in the realm of creepypastas. It doesn't necessarily have to come from creepypasta itself. But remember the things. Why did I just forget the word? The criteria. The criteria. So it won't necessarily have to deal with me. So they don't necessarily have to apply to me. I'll try and look at them through your eyes, through your explanation of it. But remember, potential to keep me awake, so that can be potential to keep you awake. believability, if it was a believable thing that, you know, happened, especially if it's like a creature, is it a believable creature? Or if you do have things, or is it a believable story? And then scariness to you at the time. Was it one of those, yeah, this thing's freaking creepy as hell. Like, I was a child and now I'm thinking of this for days. So keep those in mind. But we are still on our way to 2,500 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you have not yet, hit the subscribe button. Leave your creepypasta down in the comments below. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video.